morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, out of Voice of Radio. So today, we are continuing our look at Gen 5 Pokemon that have been ignored but then been brought back. Apparently, Miracle Twin over in Japan has decided to bring back a bunch of Gen 5 Pokemon, and if they're bringing stuff like Excadrill back, I could not be happier. I love Excadrill. Now, the translation here is a mixture of the lovely Joe from Cerebi.net and my own work on Google Translate. And starting off, well, the basics are a mixed bag. 120 HP we don't like because of stuff like Buzzwole. That's going to suck. And the Retreatals have 2 we don't like because it means even something like a Skateboard will not give us free retreat. We do, however, like the fact that we are weak to Grass because outside of Celebi and Venusaur, who are going to be one-hit KOing you anyway, it doesn't really matter. So we're good. And the fighting type, we love the fighting type. Fighting type means we hit weakness on Pikachu and Zekrom. It means we can use Diancie Prism Star to do a little bit of extra damage. Ladies and gentlemen, being a fighting type is good. Oh yeah, we also then have Black Belt to reduce the attack cost if we're behind on prizes, and Martial Arts Dojo to do more damage if we're behind on prizes. Suffice it to say, ladies and gentlemen, this is cool. But what does it actually do? Well, the weird thing is, the best thing about Excadrill isn't even an attack. I know, right? How bizarre. So, Excadrill then. The first attack is the one we're really looking at. And the first attack reads: shuffle any 4 cards from your discard pile back into your deck. Any 4 cards from your discard pile into your deck. Well, that sounds pretty gosh darn good. This is Universal Recovery. Now, interestingly enough, it's actually called Rototiller. And some of you should remember Rototiller, because that's what the really good Baneri had. Now, to be fair, Baneri did a couple of things. Baneri, first of all, it had Omega Barrage, which meant that it could attack twice. And then it had 2 attacks, 1 colorless energy, Rototiller, shuffle a card from your discard pile into your deck, and 1 colorless energy, Burrow, discard the top card of your opponent's deck. So Baneri could be used either to do a bit of recovery or to do a little bit of milling. It would work with either. Here's the thing though, even with Baneri attacking twice, they're recovering 2 cards. Well, this recovers 4. This is like 2 tons of Baneri. That's amazing. Now, there is one small and one big downside here. The small downside is it's for a fighting energy. Now, the fighting energy in and of itself isn't a huge problem because with a black belt, it will reduce the attack cost by 1 fighting energy if you're behind on prizes, so we can work around that, and you can always use stuff like rainbow energy if you so wish. I mean, look, I know it's a specific coloured energy, but the fact that it's only one of them really means we shouldn't worry our pretty little heads about it. But the bigger thing here is it's a stage 1. Now, that might not be a huge problem, because the thing is, Baneri, in terms of recovery, yeah, it didn't matter. It didn't matter that it was in the middle of the game, because that's when you needed to recover stuff. So the fact that you're a stage 1 also shouldn't matter, because as I just said, you're going to be recovering in the middle of the game. You're not going to be using this to recover on turn 1. I suppose you might be, but it's extremely unlikely. The reality is you're going to need this in the mid to late game, so being a stage 1 isn't as big a downside as I might have made out. And really here, as much as we're mentioning Baneri, I think this is just, well, it's an arguably better version of Oranguru. The other thing is Oranguru is definitely going to rotate next September, unless we don't have a rotation, which would be weird, whereas this will be surviving for a couple of years yet. So, how is it different to Oranguru? And there's basically 4 differences. Now, the bad difference is you're a stage 1 and it's a coloured energy rather than a basic for 1 colourless energy. But even then, that doesn't make that big a difference because you'll have a turn to evolve. But the good difference is here, I mean, firstly, a much better attack in terms of doing damage, plus you hit for weakness. And secondly, you're shuffling 4 cards back in rather than putting 3 cards on the bottom of your deck. Now, to be fair, if you want to play Looker or you want to play Ingo and Emmett, you can draw cards directly off the bottom of your deck and you're good. In that case, you want to have the cards on the bottom of your deck. But the reality is that most of the time we're not drawing cards off the bottom of our deck. We're using stuff like Lily, or we're using stuff like Erica's, or we're using stuff like Zeb Striker, all of which draw off the top of your deck. And if you use Oranguru, you are guaranteeing that you're not going to be able to get him with something like Zeb Striker. Whereas with Excadrill, maybe you do, maybe you don't, but there's at least a chance, ladies and gentlemen. And that's the point here. It's a stage 1, which means that you've got to take an extra turn evolving up, as well as losing a couple spaces in your deck. And it's for fighting energy, which does reduce the amount of different partners you can have. But in terms of a recovery card, make no mistake about it, I think this is better than Oranguru. I really genuinely do. And you would use this in a deck where you're reusing stuff like maybe Crushing Hammer, and you're reusing some supporter cards you're going to be really taking advantage of. Maybe Giovanni's Exile, for instance. Maybe you even combine that with a Diglett to do a little bit of milling. Whatever it is. Now, we've lost a lot of our good cards for disruption decks. We've lost our Max Potion. We've lost our Ace Roller, but we've still got some stuff like Crushing Hammer. And we've still got stuff like Koga's Trap, which I like very much indeed. And that's kind of cool. Now, it isn't just for disruption decks. Now, to be clear, I think you could whack this in a disruption deck in the same way you do with Oranguru nowadays, and I think it would work very, very nicely. I did actually do a video about a deck that played this with Slowking and Shedinja. I'll pop a link to that video in the description so you can go and check it out. And you could just pop that in here, and it would work. But you can also just use this for general recovery. So if you're really relying on triple acceleration energy, maybe you're playing a deck like Dugong, for instance, where you hit 60 to each of 2 bench Pokemon. Or you're playing something like Aerodactyl, for instance, where you're hitting 180 for a triple acceleration energy. But maybe 4 triple acceleration energy isn't enough. Well, Excadrill comes up and goes, "What's on, boys? I've got you from here." Because the thing is, Excadrill, the number 4 here is incredibly relevant because it's a play set, which means you can get all of your triple acceleration energy back, or all of your Crushing Hammer back in one attack. I absolutely adore this for the first attack. I think it's genuinely really, really good. I can't tell you whether it is going to replace Oranguru in some decks. I think it stands a chance. The fact that it's not colourless energy and the fact that it's a stage 1 will put a bunch of people off. You've got the same retreat cost and you've got the same HP here, but you've got a better weakness. And your attack hits for a good weakness. Now, you're doing 90 damage for a fighting double colourless. Now, we are losing double colourless, but remember that triple acceleration energy I just told you about? That'll do the trick. And here's the thing. You're sitting there recovering stuff for a single energy. Your opponent puts Pikachu and Zekrom in the active. Oh no, I've only got 1 energy. What do I do? Well, you attack the triple acceleration energy. Oh no, now I'm only hitting for 90 damage. What do I do? It's a fighting Pokemon. Diancie Prism Star puts you up to 110. Still not quite enough. Martial Arts Dojo puts you up to 120. Now we're rolling. And remember, ladies and gentlemen, that if you are playing this in a bit of a disruption deck, you're going to be behind on prizes more often than not. So Martial Arts Dojo won't do an extra 10 damage, it will do an extra 40. And now with Diancie Prism Star, you're actually hitting 150, but this isn't 150 to a Tag Team GX, it's 150 to anything. And if you're behind on prizes, you can attach a Black Belt and a triple acceleration energy, and you've already paid for the attack in one go. You can legitimately get this going in a single turn, hitting for 150. And the thing is, it doesn't even matter if you run out of triple acceleration energy or Black Belt, because you can get them back with Rototiller. On the one hand, I mean, look, If you're looking for Pokemon or energy, you've got stuff like Brock's Grit, and you've got stuff like Energy Recycle System, basic energy. And if you're looking for stuff like supporters, you've got Palpad. But if you're looking for items, or you're looking for special energy, we don't have good ways to recover them right now. One of the best ways to recover them is Oranguru, and look, Excadrill is one of my very favourite Pokemon from Gen 5. I adore Excadrill. So I'm not exactly entirely impartial here. I've got Drill Battetti up on my desk where I edit. I'm not embarrassed about that. But the thing is, better weakness, really good second attack, better support, better typing, and I think a better recovery attack. Now, it's not a basic and it's not colourless energy. That's what Oranguru really has going for it. But if I'm playing a disruption deck here, I kind of want to build it with Excadrill because it gives you an attacking option. Yes, I know that technically Oranguru can get free energy on and do 60 plus confusion, but in one turn here, you can be doing 150. It's really not that bad. I'm giving this 4 Wassies. I'm actually a really big fan of this. It didn't jump out to me when I first looked at it, but since then I'm like, actually, yes. I'm digging this, ladies and gentlemen. I'm digging it. Yes, pun intended. But I'd like to know if you're digging it, so please do let me know in the comment section. Go nuts, be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at The Wassy, and Twitch for some live action at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts and all that, head on over to patreon.com/PTCGRadio, where you can do exactly that. And do make sure you're checking out youtube.com/WassyPlays, where we talk about games that don't even have Pokemon in. But by far the most important thing, as always, look after yourselves till next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.